right, welcome back. Are you a first-time voter? Are you going to be voting in this August 8th election for the first time? And in general, also to the young people, what is it that you look for within a political leader? Those are some of the topics that we are discussing today. So make sure you jump onto our Twitter platform at KTN News and at Zinza_K and at Brian_Asili. There you go. What do you look for in a political leader? Is it honesty and transparency, authority, the track record, or ethnicity? All right. And of course, the other one is what will influence or what influences your vote and why? Is it social media? Is it that peer influence? Or is it your parents? Or is it your tribe? We really want to hear from you. But of course, first of all, as usual, Brian Asili, my colleague right here in studio, went to the streets and talked to a few of you in regards to this topic. And this is what you had to say.
Niko mtaani na mavijana, tunapiga tu story hapa hivi na ninauliza swali moja simple, kama hao ni voters na what do they look for in a leader? So wacha nianze na ukijana hapa hivi. Niaje?
Popo. Mimi ni first time voter, sijai vote this time round naenda kwa hiyo ballot. This time round first time anyway na try ku get ma politician yani ma young, so wale wase wanaweza fight ya ma youth. Propaganda wase wabegi tu wa kelele
Inakasheki jo, kuna tension manze, social media, connect, mauza, kila mtu mtaa na bonga tu yani. Haujui itakuwa maparona lialia, hawezi jua litakuwa. Rada ni Kamedu manze, achievement zake manze Kamedu, msati kutuchocha ati kazi ya msee mwingine, kazi yake jo unanipata, kama kazi yake jo kida dumu na kada alakulea mayouth, wasi wa ghetto nini.
Mimi ni first time voter na naweza sema hata ukichagua leader. Chagua leader unajua anaenda kufanya job. Si leader anaenda kukaa tu kwa office. Nugget. Pia unaangalia leader vile morals zake na values zenye ako nazo. Unajua pia wase amekuwa ile ati mtu akiingia kule tu ni kwenda kula mado. Lazima uweze kuwa na ile authority. Naona nambonga leader amechaguliwa na Mungu. Si ndio?
You've been in that seat, yani umekawia kwa muda. Si you allow for the others, hao wenye wadogo ndio wa motivate pia hao wengine hao wadogo, because like for politicians right now utapata mtu amekaa kwa seat like for long, amekaa base moja, unache
inafilia ni awkward kwa sababu unajua unaambia uvotie huyu, si ati unajichagulia juu ukipeleka hizo macomplain ama ushana mzazi anakuambia si kwa hii nyumba unacheki. Saa mi Kenya naweza sema na ama politician wametoka kwa hiyo county, wanajua shida hiyo county. Sijui kwa nini wakifika inafikanga wanageuka wanakuwa high class. Unajua mimi nataka politician anajua mtaa yake inside.
I want a leader who actually atafanya kazi. Someone who is loyal to the people, who is hardworking and who is determined.
I'm a first time voter. What I would like for a leader is integrity. Alafu na mtu atanioshea hii town. Nairobi imekuwa chafu sana.
All right, so that was just a few of the thoughts from on the street. And while that was playing, there was a specific discussion that came up. The last gentleman, there's something he mentioned, that his parents told him, if you don't vote for this person, X and X will happen. I mean, is that also a conversation you've had within your own social and family circles, especially when your parents tell you, by the way, in familia, we are voting for this person? Yeah? Shiko, the founder of Tribeless Youth, is it something that you've seen?
Yeah. It happens. Like, now and again, your parents will be like, if you're voting for this person, apana, mtu wetu ni huyu, you need to do it. If not, wewe sijui ni wawapi. And then, they feel like, kama, the Kenyan feel. If you're Jubilee, you're Kikuyu. If you're Nasa, you're Luo. That is how our parents are. Like, you need to vote for mtu wetu. And it happens every day.
Kevin,
yeah,
can you agree?
Mtu wetu, yeah, vizuri sana. Vizuri sana. Unasikia unaishi kwa nani? Unaoga na sabuni ya nani wewe? Unajua hii sabuni unatumia na kuaga ya nani? Sasa unafaa uko operate. Kitu nimekuambia ndo unadu. Si mimi kutuma maziwa unaleta na kutuma mkaa. Sasa kuanzia leo tukienda kupanga line pale toka hapa saa 9. Kwangu ulali saa 9 enda kwa line. Na uvote ule Morio.
Tom, let me engage you just a little bit. You guys did an amazing research that we got our hands on, of course, earlier this week in regards to voting. And majority of the people, because from the sample example, about 2,000 people participated in this specific one across all the 46 counties. There's one question that really stood out for me when you asked them that did they vote in the last general election in 2013. 79% were at least under the age of 18 by then. Yeah. Do you think that this time around we will see a bigger number of young people coming out to vote, especially with the research that you and your team have been conducting over the months?
It's a very good question. I'm not very good at making predictions, so I wouldn't really know. We are waiting for the final verified voters register from the IEBC following the completion of the audit by KPMG last week when they handed it over. But whatever adjustments they make in the register, we know that there are 27 or 28 million Kenyans who are 18 years and above. And we know from the preliminary figures that we had from IEBC after the completion of the last mass voter registration that we've got somewhere 18 million, 19 million registered, and some names to be struck off because they're deceased names and so on and so forth. So we begin with the basic fact that about 2/3 only, somewhere between 65 and 70% of all Kenyans of age have the possibility of voting in this election. We have no idea what the turnout will be, but what we haven't got yet, or at least I haven't got yet, and maybe we'll get when the official figures are out, is what's the age breakdown within the 2/3 of 18 and over who are registered. We don't know that yet. So predicting what percentage of people in different age groups would vote, I wouldn't have any way of knowing.
Do you think, in regards to, of course, also again, the research that Ipsos has always been conducting as we're gearing up to the elections, and you have over 2,000 young people who are participating in this specific research?
Sorry, it's 2,000 across the whole population.
Yes, across
and in the age group, excuse me, in the age group, our youngest bracket of 18 to 24, I don't remember the exact figure, but it's somewhere between 15 and 20% of the total population is in that bracket. And then the rest are 25 to 34, and then 35 to 44, and so on and so forth. But I mean, even if you look at the national population statistics from the census or at the National Population Council, you get basically those figures. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. Eric, I have a question.
Yes.
Kumekuwa Ipsos, you've always done a research. Each and every time you do research before elections, lakini they don't reflect exactly as how wase walifanya research. Wewe unafikiria kuna interference hapo katikati? Kuna kitu yofanyika inafanya research ya Ipsos haifanani na yenye imefanyika na IBCJ, kuna shida?
I have to side issue on that one. Our research is correct.
Yeah.
So unless you can prove or you have facts, please don't make the assertion that our numbers don't match reality. Just, I mean, they may not, but please, let's have your evidence.
But it's pretty much true, because each and every time you do research, it's not exactly as how it appears in the election. So I'm asking, do you think there's interference hapo katikati?
In terms of, well, they'll present their research, obviously, but then on the material day, the people campaigning will be out pulling whatever tricks they need to pull to swing whatever votes they need towards their side. That's what I think happens. So when you say, does something happen in between? Yes. I think I saw some time back in the newspaper, when there was a food drought somewhere, somebody had a plastic bag, and in it he had his poster, and then the food he was going to give to the people there. Those kinds of tricks will work. Before I vote, the last meal I ate last night, I removed it off a poster with someone's face. It's already psychologically in my head.
Shuka, I can see you agreeing to this.
Yeah, it's true, because basically I've seen it. Even right now, a politician will come knock at your door, amebeba maziwa na unga, and we know unga right now is expensive, yeah?
Or it's not even there.
Yeah. So if you bring me unga, definitely it clicks. Huyu ndo mse wangu. And that is what I'll vote, yeah? But again, I would wish people like Ipsos, as they do their research, they give us exact figures, not the percentages, because maybe the percentages reflect what comes in figures. You know, we just never know. But if we can get to a point where we get figures instead of maybe percentages, maybe we can be able to like differentiate. So this is what happened. This is how much they added to the vote, because I believe in what Ipsos does. I depend on their research in so many things. And maybe if we get to a point whereby now we have exact figures. The youth of this nation is 70%, so maybe give us the exact figures.
Sorry, if I may just clarify. Now, I want to agree with you a bit. Because I think, based on the comments, these last two comments, I think I'm getting what you're saying. Number one, the law in Kenya, the Publication of Electoral Polls Act of 2012 prohibits the release of any survey results related to voting intentions within about a week of the election. And that means that in order to conduct, and we usually, for the last two elections, we've conducted pre-election surveys of 6,000 or 7,000. And that requires more fieldwork time. That means that for the last two elections, those surveys were finished 7 to 10 days before the actual election.
Oh, okay.
And as you were saying, a lot can happen in the last week in terms of
the last night.
I don't want to say rigging.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say buying votes, but let's say voter mobilization.
Yes.
We know, for example, before the last election, in our January survey, Raila Odinga was ahead of Uhuru by 6 percentage points, 46 to 40.
Yeah.
1 month later, actually 5 weeks later, in mid-February, that lead had disappeared, and they were in a statistical tie. And in both cases, we were using the final distribution of the registered voters, so our sampling frame didn't change. So there was a lot that was happening on the ground. Now, one other final point, again, to maybe reinforce you about your perception of the gap between our final results and the actual election. Whether it was in the US election, the Brexit vote, or whatever, although not in the last French election, but I'll come to that in a minute. That was perfect. They got it exactly right. I'm not saying the French are better than us, because Ipsos is a French company, but nobody can predict voter turnout. And when we did our analysis of our last results, after we got the official turnout figures from IEBC, and we know there were two petitions that were challenging so much about those official results, but when we got those results from IEBC, we found that in the 20 counties where Jubilee got most of their votes, the official voter turnout was 90%. In the 20 counties where Accord, as it was then, got most of their votes, the turnout was only 84%. That in itself could explain quite a bit of the difference between Ipsos' last results and the official results. And in fact, we have received guidelines from the Ipsos headquarters. And Ipsos is in about 90 different countries, and we're doing pre-election polls in maybe 60 or 70 countries where we have the freedom to do so. But not in every country is there this freedom. And the guidelines say, before an election, in your final poll, do not release a single set of statistics. Make sure you release one set based on the turnout rate in the previous election, another one based on the identity of the candidates in this one, in which you hypothesize what the turnout might be, in addition to whatever results you get. Because turnout cannot be predicted, even leaving aside these other things about vote buying and so on and so forth, or insecurity issues that might depress, voter turnout or any other funny business.
Okay, Tom, we're coming back to this conversation, definitely. Aseli, there's something that you did for us this week on Art Corner. It still has to do with this issue of voting.
Nakwambia, this time round kuna slum. Hey, nakwambia ni project moja kali sana. There's a company yenye decide kucover stories zenye ziko kwa slum. So this week nilicover hawa si walikuwa na release video inaitwa G-Involve. It's a film. Nilienda kuwacheki hii wiki. So cheki hii maneno.
I'm Beauty Ayoma.
What role did you play?
Pendo. I played Pendo. Well, Pendo is a self-driven young woman because she's in the university and she's a hopeless lover because she fell in love with Steve. Steve doesn't have money at all, but Pendo doesn't even mind because I think she's just in love. And then to some point, she still wants to use Steve because Steve has an influence in the area. So she wants to use Steve to be able to change the lives of the youth through the Constitution. That's just Pendo. I knew then that there's a Sheng Constitution. It's called Katiba Mtaani. I didn't know about it, so I knew about it through the film. The film was really an eye-opener to me, knowing that I have to know who I'm choosing for them to lead me. I have to know the type of amenities that I'm supposed to have. I have to know, it taught me how to know my MP is supposed to do this, the president is supposed to do this. So as much as I played part in it, it was a really eye-opener to me.
Mimi naitwa Simon Cairo, my real names, but watu wengi hujiunga kama Sech Madhai. Mimi nilifanya kwa hii movie Involve, nilifanyanga role ya Steve. Steve alikoga ni character moja mbigi sana, bigi sana kwa kitu. Nilichezaga kitu kubwa sana juu ya language barrier. Unajua? Language barrier inafanya watu wengi sana sasa hiwezi cheza. Watu wajuage constitution juu ya language barrier. But vile nikakanga hivi chini pia mimi nikaisoma nikajuaga okay kumbe unajua.
My name is Annette and in the film I was the project manager. In the film I was a project manager, so we helped organize, the team together, the crew, cast, and just made sure it had, it was a very smooth sailing process. I think the story is very important, especially during this time of elections. It is very, I don't want people to think about it as one of those, you watch like a documentary and whatever. You can take this as fiction, it is both entertaining, but then the story as well is very important in terms of how the youth sees elections and how, sometimes we use different things to divide us against, certain lines that shouldn't be actually used. So, it asks us to, read the Constitution, know our rights, and, make a good decision for us in our community.
The film itself was like a mentorship program where we're training young people to do film for social change.
This is a project that should be taken further to be able to create awareness among the youth, basically for them to be active in being citizens and also to show responsibility of their community. And
Okay, that was a fantastic piece. Asili, thank you so much for that. And you should go and look out for that film, Involve film. And it's sort of what we're talking about in studio today, which got a little bit heated up, of course. As we're closing up, Shiko, you founded Tribeless Youth, which really looks at and encouraging young people to to look beyond the tribe, to look beyond. Do you think, honestly, as Kenyans, as young people, as the young people who are going out to vote for the next leader, as the young people who are inheriting this country, that we're going to see a shift in mentality and attitude when it comes to how we choose our leaders? Or do you think, we've already inherited this tribe factor?
One, I would say young people of this nation are a totally different tribe. That is why we don't have a ministry of ourselves. We are under gender, because we are a different gender maybe. But I also think we are getting literate by the day. I think we are not the same as we were 5 years back.
All right.
I've seen young people getting bitter on stuff, so they just complain online. But I can tell from this that we are going beyond tribal lines.
Okay.
Nominations were a clear indication of this. We saw what happened in Nandi, and everybody was like, yeah, it's Fagia Wote. But then I think come August 8th, maybe we might vote the same way. We might try Fagia everything, because we all want that.
All right, so time, okay.
I have one question. I must ask this one question.
Okay.
And that is, if we, based on what you said, if we, Ipsos, or any other survey firm, went to the public, say 1 month after the election, and interviewed people of all ages, but say especially youth, but whatever. And among the questions we asked, who did you vote for and why? Do you think people would honestly answer the question, or they would feel if they don't say they voted for somebody from their own ethnic group, if they would be shy to tell us? Or could we actually get data that would help answer the question, why do people, and especially young people, vote the way they do?
Okay, all right. Asili, closing remarks, but please.
Yeah, I think most of the people would actually shy away from answering all these questions you're asking, because nobody would want to be transparent at the end of the day and say, hey, I voted for this person, because 1 month after the election, there's too much tension in the country.
But I would love to do that.
Yeah,
I would love to say it out in the open.
They'd love to do that, but most of the people that I'm telling, they wouldn't want to answer that 1 month after the election.
So 6 months would be better?
6 months would be better.
Okay, so lastly, because of time, right? I want to answer, and I want to hear from all of you, but very, very quick. Do you think that young people are any different from these politicians? Very quick, Eric.
Yes, the current generation, just like Shiko said, this is a new crop of guys who were tired of what's been happening. We're no longer under our parents' houses. We now have our minds together. We're sick and tired of living in the same situation. We're sick and tired of having business ideas, having capital together, but then I can't go anywhere because there's this guy who must just be greeted with, 10 kilograms in your hand so that you go forward.
Okay.
Get him out of your way, go ahead and move. So this is a totally different generation.
Deep.
Yeah.
Kevo.
Yani ni fani sana, lakini vijana sahi wamefunguka macho. Washajua watu wanakuja mtaa PR, anapewa do, anakinya, alafu anakuja siku za mwisho huko, anakuja na kamna projects ndogo ndogo, alafu hii time kama wengine walikuja mtaani na story ya driving license, wakachukua watu 30. Unaona? Sasa hii watu 30 amechukua constituency mzima. Alafu hizi 30 anarudi kupeana QPR, anaeka road show kubwa sana, nikaa bonge la concert. Anapeana kwa public, but vijana wamefunguka macho. For now, tunataka leaders wale wana perform.
All right, that is our cue that we need to close the show. Thank you so much for coming and being part of this conversation. Of course, as we end the show, of course, we're always giving credits to those who dressed us. Of course, tonight, Romance, Fashion and Style are the ones who dressed me this evening. Thank you so much. My name is Zizi Kibiku.
And the hottest man in Eastern Central Africa, mse amenidress ni Mike Mujukane. Huyo mse ni mnoma sana. Na, of course, hii wiki ni kali sana na leo ni siku kali sana. Birthday ya Tupac Shakur, rest in peace. Lakini bado we ni legend. Good night.
Wow.